Before we dive in, I want to share something that can make 2026 your best year yet. It's called the Success Blueprint, a quick, powerful goal-setting course designed to help you achieve goals that actually fit your values, your capacity, and your season of life. Inside, you'll create a focused plan for 2026 that feels exciting and doable, not overwhelming. Think of it as a roadmap that channels your ambition into meaningful, sustainable progress. And it's yours for $26. If you're ready for goals you can't wait to accomplish that are actually doable, head to womenleadwell.net/blueprint or check out the link in the show notes below. You'll be amazed at how easy it can be to achieve your biggest, juiciest goals. And now, on to the episode. Welcome to Joyfully Unstoppable, the podcast for women who are ready to succeed without the stress. Whether you're leading a team, a classroom, a boardroom, or your own big, beautiful life, I am so glad you found us. I'm your host, Becky Ham, leadership coach, speaker, and founder of Women Lead Well. Each week, we'll explore what it means to lead joyfully, sustainably, and authentically, even in a world that tells you to hustle harder and prove your worth. You carry a lot. Let's help it feel lighter. Y'all, I am so excited for today's episode. We have the great privilege of welcoming Becca Spahr on the podcast. Becca is a Marine Corps veteran, certified relational health coach, and a keynote speaker who works with veterans and military families to build belonging, friendships, and social confidence after service. Her work focuses on social wellness, the often overlooked skill set that allows people to thrive personally, professionally, and relationally. Becca, thank you so much for coming on the Joyfully Unstoppable podcast.
Thanks, Becky. I'm really excited to be here.
We're excited to have you here. And so, to start, I want to say, stereotypically, we wouldn't necessarily combine Marine Corps and social wellness together. And so can you help our listeners understand what makes this topic so important to you, and how do these two things come together for you?
Well, you are not the first person to give a little bit of pause when I come out and say I spent 20 years in the Marine Corps leading Marines in combat. And now I teach people to make friends because the two don't really seem like they go hand in hand, but really they do. There's a lot more overlap than you would think. And so when I retired from the Marine Corps and I had a little bit of time to catch my breath and think about what I really wanted to do, it came down to teaching people the skills that I felt like I had through my service and leading people. The skills of how to be a good leader, and to do that by tapping into the people component of it and feeling connected to your team, building trust within your team, building a sense of belonging for your team is huge. So I did actually start kind of in the leadership realm and then quickly realized this is all falling under the umbrella of social wellness, which is important to us both in our personal and professional lives.
Yeah. And tease out this idea of social wellness. What does that mean for someone who isn't familiar with the term?
The way I like to think about it is that if we just think of the picture of our overall health, there are some pillars. One of those pillars is our physical health. So we need to be, eating reasonably well, moving our bodies, getting enough sleep, doing preventative care that will keep us healthy for a long time. Then the next pillar is our mental health. And so that's dealing with stress, managing the things that, our emotions that sometimes we feel good, sometimes we feel bad, but we try to kind of keep it somewhere in the middle, and the things that we need to do to keep our health, our mental health good. The third pillar is becoming really in research and in academia is becoming just as important as we learn more about it. And that third pillar is our social wellness. So social wellness is defined as the basically how well we are able to access the people and communities around us that give us support. And so if you kind of do sort of a self-diagnosis, you can think, well, how good is my social wellness? Do I have a group of friends around me who I can go to for emotional support, but also to have fun? Do I have a community around me where I feel like I have a sense of belonging and that I'm contributing something to this community? Do I have people who uplift me and who I feel like I could ask for help if I needed to? One of my tests that I kind of joke with people is like, do I have someone I could ask to pull my trash cans to the curb if I was going to be on vacation during trash day? And if you don't, you might need to make friends with some of your neighbors.
Yeah. Oh, that's so important. You know, in a previous life, I don't know, in a previous iteration, I did work in the area of moral injury. And so service members who had witnessed, experienced, or done things that undermined their understanding of right and wrong and their ability to act as agents of good, of the right in the world. And your point about community and feeling like you are contributing something to a community was one of the fundamentally most important elements of healing moral injury in people. Is it's not what we think. We think it is, can I rely on other people to help me? But no, the key is, do I feel like I can help others? And am I putting myself in situations, in relationships where I feel like I am being of service and I'm helping other people? Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't have that, or they might have it in one aspect of their life, like professionally they do, but they might not have it in another realm, like their personal life. And that can really lead to big problems like depression and anxiety and isolating and substance abuse, because if feeling like you are contributing to something good is actually a fundamental human need.
Right.
And a lot of people don't think about it that way. And so then when we don't have that, that is a need that isn't being met, and then there are going to be problems.
Right. And I would be really interested in your thoughts on this. For women, we wear so many hats, right? So maybe we are a manager or supervisor or director or VP in our professional organization. We have leadership responsibilities, and we might feel like we're doing good in the work that we do professionally. Personally, we've probably got responsibilities, and that might be childcare. So raising our children, taking care of our families. I talk often on the podcast. I've got aging parents. So my parents are in their 80s, and thankfully they're still around, and we love that they're still here. But that is a layer of responsibility as well. I would be really interested when I think of the work that I do to take care of my parents, or I think of the work that I do to take care of my kids. Is that part of me seeing that I'm making a positive contribution? Or is that just one other task or responsibility or layer of stress, and I don't see it in that way?
I think it can be both or either or, and it kind of depends on your mindset about it. When, I mean, I'm a mom too. I get it. Like, yeah, I'm standing there loading the dishwasher thinking I didn't make these dishes. Why am I the one cleaning them up? But on my good days, I try to reframe it as I feel very lucky that I'm able to take care of my family, that I'm even standing here and can be loading the dishwasher. So, finding purpose in the mundane, I think is a healthy self-care tool to practice.
Yeah.
Where it helps you to kind of keep your mind right in terms of thinking through like, okay, there is a purpose to this. The day in and day out does get hard. It sometimes can drag on. I don't always want to be doing this, but overall it is, for the good of people I love. And so then it is purposeful.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a great point. When we think of our professional lives, you had mentioned previously that connection is a leadership skill. Tease out, what does that actually mean?
One of the things I really love about like the basis of your coaching is that you teach people to be sustainable leaders, which is huge. And I think a lot of people don't think of sustainability as like a facet of leadership. But, when I think of that word in terms of being a leader, I think about like that is creating systems and attitudes that allow you to not get burnt out, because you want to be a sustainable leader who's going to last for, however long you have to endure doing this. And a key part of that is feeling connected to the work that you're doing and the people that are around you. And so when we, just like I said, with those pillars of health, physical, mental, and social, when we let any one of those slip, it is going to make our time as leaders unsustainable. So, I think mental health is probably the easiest one to like wrap your head around there. Like when you're, I don't know, really stressed out because you've got these deadlines and these people who depend on you and profits you've got to make and deadlines you've got to meet, your mental health starts to take a toll if you don't have built-in ways to keep yourself, healthy mentally.
Right.
Well, it's the same with your social wellness. So if you don't have a friend you can vent to on occasion, or friends you can go out with just to kind of relax and have some time to yourself here and there, that is going to make your leadership unsustainable long term. Eventually it's going to start to crumble around the edges.
What are some indicators that things are starting to crumble around the edges?
Boy, that's a good we could talk all day about that. Well, one thing that I see a lot, and there is like scientific reasoning behind this, but one thing I see a lot with the women who are, let's say like mid-career professionals, is that they have put, and this is because they have put their time into their families, their jobs, their partnerships, sometimes like their parents, their education. And they, unfortunately, the first thing that takes a backseat is their social life often.
Mm-hmm.
And this is an actual thing, and it is called the friendship dip. Yeah, been there, right? It's called, researchers call it the friendship dip, and it starts at about age 26 for most American women, and it lasts into your mid 40s, into your 50s, which is about the time that a lot of people's kids are starting to be a little bit more self-sufficient, or maybe even leaving the parental home. But then what happens? You're at the end there and you're like, wow, I don't have any friends. I haven't really had any friends for 20 years because I have been putting all of my energy into all of these other things because I had to. But now we see things, and this is to answer your question, the symptoms we see are feeling lonely, feeling depressed, feeling anxious, feeling, I see a lot of people, I was just talking about this the other day, a lot of people, will have a partner, a spouse, and they say, well, my husband is my best friend. And that is fantastic. You absolutely should have a very, very tight and intimate relationship with your partner. But if you don't also have friends, you're putting all your eggs in one basket. And that can be dangerous in a number of ways, and may also very likely leave you feeling unfulfilled in some ways.
Yeah.
So those are the symptoms that I see, is that like the loneliness, the feeling like you missed out, the feeling like you're just sort of a one-woman show and you don't have people around you who are supportive.
Yeah, I can see that. And I can absolutely see that with mid-level, senior level women who might not have many peers that they could turn to serve as that trusted advisor, or to blow off steam, or to get just feedback from. They might have male counterparts who are peers to them, and that's a great relationship too. I'm not knocking it, but it's just a different type of a relationship than if you're connected with other women. And that just has to do with a number of women who are in more senior leadership roles.
Yeah.
Significantly more women at junior levels of leadership. But as you know, the more senior you get, the more male dominated the leadership space is.
Mm-hmm.
So that's fascinating. Yeah. I want to ask you, though, about the flip side of that coin. I have talked to a few women. It's just come up lately in conversations, some more junior, but a number of them more senior, who self-identify to say, I struggle to make meaningful connection at work because I'm afraid of being seen as maybe less professional, or I don't want to be in a relationship if I'm doing performance evaluations on someone and they think we're buddy-buddy. then I feel like I can't give them the corrective feedback that they might need to improve their performance. So how do you walk that line as a woman between building those connections in our professional life while maintaining that professional distance or those professional boundaries?
That's really nuanced, and it's a good question. And of course, there's a lot of different variables here. How many peers do you even have within your organization that are sort of same level as you in terms of like position or authority or whatever? Um, and I don't know the type of industry you're in, whether you work with men or women, that kind of thing. But I would say, I mean, ideally, you would have people who you work with who are, right about the same level. So it's not like a supervisory type of relationship. You don't want to be friends with the people you supervise, because, as you just mentioned, that can get messy real fast. But if ideally, if you are in an organization where there are enough people that you can also have friends who are about the same level as you, that's really ideal. Is it common? Not necessarily. And the higher you get, the less and less common it is. So, work may not be the place to have your good friends. It is easy to meet people at work or easier because you're there, you're interacting with these people on a regular basis. So if that was the issue, I would encourage, if I had a client come to me like that, I would encourage them to look for friends in other places, join a club, join a book club, volunteer, talk to people you see at the gym, that kind of thing. But so then when you are in a less than ideal situation at work and you have subordinates who you want to be connected to, first of all, yes, you should be connected to the people who work for you and with you. That consistently research shows that improves your work performance, your quality of life, retention, things like that. It's good for businesses when people have quote unquote friends at work, as long as you're careful about it. But when you are thinking about, if you're the leader and you want to feel connected to your people, what I encourage people to do, and I give workshops on this, I usually will do an exercise where we work through what are the traits that you look for in a friend. And people call out things like, well, I want them to be honest. I want them to be good listeners. I want to have fun with them. They have to be, trustworthy and reliable, things like that. And I say, okay, what do you want your boss to be like? And they'll say a lot of the same things. I've got to be able to trust them. They have to be reliable. I want to be a good listener. The one that doesn't come up with a boss is being fun. Nobody really is looking for their boss to be very fun. And so that's kind of highlights the difference between a friendship versus like a professional relationship. So when you are, if you're the leader and you're like, okay, well, I want to be connected to my people, but I don't want to cross that line, like you just said, or I don't want to be seen as, unprofessional or whatever. This is terrible to say, but take the fun out of it. So, you can still be friendly. You can be friendly and you can joke, but we're not going out for drinks on a regular basis. We're not being buddy. We're not sharing any kind of like inappropriate stories or anything like that, because then you're entering the friend zone. And if you want to maintain your authority as the boss or the leader, you can't be tiptoeing in that pool.
As you look ahead to a new year, this is the moment to decide how you want to grow as a leader and a person. My one-to-one coaching helps successful women bring more clarity, confidence, and alignment into their work and their lives. If you want intentional, sustainable progress in 2026, now's the time to explore coaching. Book a discovery call now, and you can begin in January. I've got 3, 6, and 12-month packages available. Yeah, and I think it's what I had tried to do myself is I'm going to ask about your family because I'm going to show that I care about you as a human, right? So I'll ask about the kids, I'll ask about the house, I'll ask about your weekend, but I'm not going to try to participate in that part of your life.
Yeah.
Right? So I'll show a healthy interest and I'll remember those sorts of things so you feel cared for. But
Yeah.
but for information only. I don't know how to say that. Yeah.
Yeah, one other kind of tactic or trick that I teach people is to look for bumper stickers. And a bumper sticker, it could quite literally be a sticker on their car that indicates something they're interested in. Or it might be, like something they have on the wall of their cubicle, like a picture or a magazine they have laying on their desk or something like that. And it indicates the things that the person has interest in and are willing to discuss publicly. Because if you put a bumper sticker on your car, you're not trying to keep it a secret that you hiked the Appalachian Trail. You would probably love it if someone came up and struck up a conversation about hiking with you. Or if you have, I don't know, a picture of your cat at your desk, then okay, cool. Cats are on the table. Let's talk about cats. So that's just sort of like an easy way to sort of see what your in might be. I probably would not fish around on social media for those kinds of things because even though it's social and open to potentially the entire world, that's still like kind of private at the same time. But yeah, if they're putting it out there, then those are okay things to talk about. Like you said, a family. A lot of people have a picture of their kids on the desk or a picture their kids drew or something like that. Yeah, that's pretty safe.
Yeah. Well, and I was going to ask about social media. Twofold. Your point about how do we relate to our team members on social media? What is appropriate connection there? But what are your thoughts more broadly? Can we develop and sustain meaningful connection through our online relationships? Or when you talk about our social wellness and building connection, are you really talking about face-to-face interaction with people?
Well, I'll answer the first part of that first because it's a little bit shorter, which is when you're talking about like an employee-boss relationship, social media probably should not be involved in that. Just best to stay away from it. Some companies even have policies about it. Like think about like educators. They're not allowed to be friends with the students that they teach because hello, red flags. Or in the military, it's like that too. You would need to be really careful with that. But in terms of the way that we relate to people, social media is here to stay. Mm-hmm. Having an online presence is here to stay. And gone are the days where you only have face-to-face interaction with people. So I say embrace it. There are more and more everyday ways that you can interact with people. And it still counts. If you're hanging out with someone via whatever platform and it's a camera, that still counts as hanging out. That's the only way I would ever see my friend in California because,
right.
I've seen her once in the last like 10 years in face to face.
Yeah.
But we can talk online. My brother has a group of guys that he meets with it's like every other Friday or something. And they've got their Hollywood squares on the computer screen and they all sit there and whatever, I don't know what they do or what they talk about, but that's how they hang out. And so I would say that the face-to-face is overall better because there are a lot of little things we do as humans that you don't get when there's a screen in between you. Mm-hmm. I mean, everything from like the little gestures to like the pheromones that a person has. Like our brains are constantly gathering information. And when you're face to face, you're gathering a lot more than if you have a screen. But when face to face isn't possible because of distance or time or something like COVID, it's an okay enough stand-in. And so if that's the only way that you're able to have human connection, then yes, I would say still try to do that.
Yeah, I think that's so important. What is one, you have mentioned a few things, but I just want to be very clear for the listeners. So if they self-identify as someone who maybe needs to cultivate connection, I want to give them very practical kind of a checklist of options that they could try or things that they could do. What are one or two, three things that women could do to help build that connection once they hear this podcast and they go on with their lives?
Yeah. All right. So many things come to mind, but I'll pick out a few. These are the ones that I hear myself saying over and over again. So one is that, and this applies in friendship type of relationships, romantic relationships, work type of relationships, is taking an interest in people. Sometimes you'll hear people say like, oh, you should be curious about other people. That would be synonymous with what I'm saying. And there is a difference between being interested in someone and taking an interest in someone. So interest more generally is showing a person that you care about what they have to say, you're curious about what they have to say. That makes you feel good when you're the person that someone else is interested in. It starts to light up all the different pleasure centers of your brain, and you think, wow, they like me, and wow, they want to hear more about me. And maybe you don't get excited about it, but you leave with like a good feeling. You get that good impression.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, Becky is really nice. She asked me all about my vacation, and she really seemed like she wanted to hear about it. And then I felt good because I got to talk about something that made me feel good. Like, we're all feeling good here. So then if we kind of break interest down, I think of it as there is interest where you are being interested and interest where you are taking an interest. Being interested is easier to achieve. It's a little bit lower level. It looks like asking questions, having a friendly conversation, wanting to know more about the person, but on kind of a more surface level. And that's fine. When you're initially interacting with someone, yes, that's what it's going to look like. People who you don't know very well, you're going to stay in the being interested category. That's fine. Yeah. That's what acquaintances are. When you go into taking an interest into someone, that's taking the relationship that next step. So maybe now you're getting into the actual like being friends with someone. It's like if it's an employee kind of relationship, it's more than just like, hey, how was your weekend? One sentence back, great, see you later. But it's asking them about their goals. What are you trying to accomplish next professionally? How can I help you get there? Are there any introductions I could make? Or what they're interested in personally, like, oh, hey, I know you signed up for that marathon. How's the training going? And, so it's remembering and following up, and you're building that relationship. So taking an interest is like a deeper level of that. So if I had to give one tip, it would be the being interested, being curious for people.
I think that's so important. I'm going to ask for a follow-on tip, and that would be for our listeners who are more introverted or shy, and the showing an interest, having an interest, taking an interest, that feels there's a lot of barrier to that. Mm-hmm. Do you have any recommendations for what can help it reduce that barrier, help it feel more doable?
Yeah. The idea of introversion and extroversion is something I think about a lot, probably more than I should. And I think that we have this idea that, because you can take these personality tests and know yourself and et cetera, et cetera. And sometimes, I think a lot of times, people are labeled as an introvert, and then they just accept it and roll with it. So one element to that is that you can change over time. Just because you were an introvert when you took a personality test when you were 12 does not mean that you have to still be an introvert when you're 45. I'm not saying you're doing like a complete 180, but there are degrees to introversion and extroversion that you can practice and change. And the other thing about introversion and extroversion, I think people get the definition wrong. And it really, what it comes down to is like how you draw energy from other people. So after you are around people a lot and like interacting, talking, whatever, having a conversation, do you feel drained and like you need to recharge? Or do you feel like, yes, let's keep going? So the people who feel like, okay, I need a minute to recharge are the introverts. And the people who are just like, yes, give me more. I love this. I just want to keep talking to people and being around people. Those are the extroverts. But again, it's a spectrum. I talk to a lot of people who can be extroverted for a while. They can be extroverted at a party, but then they go home and they have to like chill out for a solid 12 hours before they can do that again. That's kind of how I am. But so tips for introverts. One, don't let the personality test that said that you were an introvert wreck your social life for the rest of eternity. Because, okay, it's not going to come as easy to you, but that just means that you have to work a little bit harder. And I liken it to people who are not athletic aren't going to have as easy a time picking up a basketball and playing basketball with their buddies, right? They're not as coordinated, or they don't have the endurance or whatever. Whereas there are people who just like can jump in a game and be happy and whatever. But if you practice it and you do it more, you still are probably never going to be Michael Jordan, but you can get to a point where it's more comfortable for you. So by practicing these skills, by looking for ways to be interested using the bumper stickers that I talked about, come up with one open-ended question you can ask. So open-ended meaning you're not just going to get a yes or a no or one word. You're going to get like a sentence back. Come up with an open-ended question, ask it. Do that again, follow up with another open-ended question. Do that 3 times. So now you have invested 3 questions from your brain into this conversation. And by then, you're in a conversation. And at that point, it's becoming a lot more easy, that back and forth, where you are, you have this volley of ideas going back and forth with another person. So I try to tell that to people who feel like they're shy or they don't know what to say at first. Just lead with an open-ended question. And then alternately, if you don't do that, a compliment can often also get you in the door. And that first compliment, people do prefer compliments that are like well thought out and that compliment them as like a person versus just like something superficial. But for that initial compliment, if that's what you got, totally fine. Oh my gosh, I love your glasses. Those are so cute. Where did you get those? Or, I don't know, that's a nice car. How do you like that? How do you like your whatever car, and then they'll talk about their car. So looking for little ways that you can spark a conversation is helpful.
That is fantastic. Thank you, Becca. I appreciate that. And I think a lot of the women listening are going to appreciate that as well. So before we wrap, where can listeners find you if they would like to learn more about your work?
The easiest place to find me is my website, which is my name, beccaspahr.com. I'm also pretty active on LinkedIn, also Becca Spahr, and then I do Instagram too. So any of those places. A lot of my business is speaking. So I float around to conferences. I also do like professional development training. So if people are interested in hearing me speak or bringing me in to speak, definitely reach out. I answer all my DMs and emails and everything. So definitely I would love to hear from you and what we could learn from each other.
Great. Well, Becca, thank you so much for coming on the show. You have really helped my own thinking about the importance of connection and community and leadership and how to cultivate that and sustain it over time. And I know that the listeners got a lot out of it as well. And so if 2026 has felt a little bit chaotic, and I will confess it has felt a little bit chaotic for me, I hope you'll join me next week when we'll be exploring best practices for leading through uncertainty, how to lead when you don't have all the answers. You won't want to miss it. And now, if this episode has spoken to you, I would love for you to share it with a friend. We need more women leading with connection and commitment. And please don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you could leave a review, I would really, really appreciate it. Building those reviews on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube really does help a little podcast like mine to get some traction and get shown to more women who could benefit from it. Also, you can always grab one of our free resources like Tame Your Inner Critic, the Weekly Reset Routine, and the Mental Load Reset. All of that's available on the Women Lead Well website, and I'll link them in the show notes below. Remember, Joyful, sustainable, and authentic leadership is possible, and you deserve to enjoy every minute of it. Until next time, I'm Becky Ham, and this is Joyfully Unstoppable.